showing up in sports, essentially how culture affects marketing decisions. And I think what we'll do is I'll just introduce each one, and then you can just kind of answer the questions in a row. I don't think we'll introduce everybody at the beginning. We'll just do it as we go. Does that sound good? So let's start with Sandra. I think we've seen some of the buzz around your relationship with the Dodgers and some of your cool stunts with like Ryan Seacrest and what have you. But I think before we get into kind of what your activations have been or how you're engaging in sports and culture, if you can just tell us a little bit about Health-Ade, kombucha, give us a little background on the brand, and then help lead us into why you made some of the brand decisions in terms of, let's say, the engagement with the Dodgers to begin with. And then we'll look a little bit more about kind of what you actually did. I think you brought some slides. We can look at those and kind of get into it. So.
Sounds good. Yeah, so I'm Sandra. If you don't know Health-Ade, it's the most delicious kombucha you can buy. As one of the smaller brands, representing here, and also one of the smaller brands at Dodger Stadium, as we were thinking about kind of our first ever sports sponsorship partnership last year, for us it really had to work across multiple of our key pillars of strategy to be worth it, just given that it would be a larger percentage of our budget. So we this year introduced a new format for our product with our cans. And so as we were thinking about that, we thought, what are the types of places and venues and consumption occasions that now open up for us that we're no longer in a 16-ounce glass bottle. And so we immediately thought of on-premise sports, but how could we bring that to life in a way that, would feel authentic to us as a smaller brand? And we, as kombucha, are up against, what is kombucha? Does it taste disgusting? How do I drink it? Is it really just a remedy? So for us, we've been really pushing on those more mainstream consumption occasions and partnering with an entity like the Dodgers that is like all American, lots of food pairing occasions, really borrowing from their equity to cue to people that this can be a mainstream beverage occasion. You can trust this to taste good. If you can find this at Dodger Stadium, it can't be that bad. So as we thought about going on this endeavor, we really thought, we have to commit not only to ourselves, but to the Dodgers, that as a smaller brand with a smaller team, we're going to make the most of this partnership and really double down. So beyond thinking of the activations inside of the stadium, we had out of home in the LA area. We, invited influencers into the stadium, really taking advantage of the scale that something like the Dodgers Stadium can offer us that as a smaller brand, we might not be able to pursue. And then of course, all the stuff pushing it out into stores, activating in the SoCal area. We had contests through MLB, all kinds of things. But when Ryan Seacrest became involved with the brand, which was a surprise to us, we didn't know when we were planning this Dodgers partnership, it really became apparent that having a big sports partnership like that, even for a smaller brand, can help you get the scale that you might need to turn a big activation like this on a dime. Having worked with celebrity partnerships before at smaller brands, it can be a big burden on a brand to actually get a celebrity of a certain scale to a place safely and get them out and create the content. So for us, working with the Dodgers, it really enabled us within a couple of weeks of him becoming an investor in our company to be able to create a surprise stunt activation at the stadium that the Dodgers were extremely happy about, we were happy about, we got pickup across TV, media, the Daily Mail, whatever else. And a lot of people haven't even heard about Health-Ade. And now we're in the conversation and we're in these places that we haven't been before. So if you want to know more about maybe getting into sports as a smaller brand, feel free to chat with me. But I'll put together a little video of our Ryan stunt.
So I wanted to catch an afternoon Dodger game, but I felt guilty not working. So I found myself a side game. We got free kombucha! Kombucha! You look excited to have something. There you go. Good for you, it tastes good. When does that ever happen? You love kombucha? You're not a big fan? Well, let's change your mind. Right. We're going to transform you right now. asking me how was the wrong one. Okay, this is the best one. Hi, how are you? What's that? Yeah. Oh, of course. You need kombucha? You've already met. Well, all grown up. I got it on me. I don't know, I'm not with you. She said that? LA's number one in music station. Every day on the school, I was here. That's awesome. All right. It's good, right? I'm telling you, bro. Are we out? Come on. No. Oh.
Take it away, Ryan.
It's time for Counter Baseball!
Yeah, and if you flip through here, you can just flip quickly. This is just some of the ways that, you know, we activated around the area, and really it is quite convenient that their colors also match our logo, which, you know, just works out great. But you know, from influencers to sampling to out of home to him mentioning us on the radio, it's really turned into a full 360 that enables us to really get our brand message out there in a way that we don't have to tell you, you know, this is refreshing, this tastes great, paired with a Dodger dog. It kind of does it for us. So it's been a big success for us so far.
Okay, great. Well, thank you very much, Sandra. Moving on to DC with Adidas.
There you go.
And I thought we're going to go right in a row. No.
Oh,
We're going to mix it up a little
okay,
bit.
no problem.
But just wanted to kind of set the stage here a little bit from a cultural perspective and how this affects your marketing. I think you've said before that you know, you can't change culture. You just got to figure out how to fit in from an external perspective, and then you also have internal, right? Adidas is a German company, and so you have both internal influences, you have external influences, Kanye West, and you know, to be one, and but I want
No longer.
no longer. That's true. But I think just in terms of, you know, for the audience, just to get inside a little bit about how these different cultural aspects influence your decision making, I wanted to just have you kind of bring us up to speed on what Adidas is doing now, why you're doing it, perhaps focus in a little bit on the originals, because that's something kind of coming down the pipe now that you're going to hear more of. Perhaps you could put it into that context.
That's a heck of a setup. All right. How's it going, everyone? For the Rams who are hosting us, thank you. I appreciate this. Haven't been in the locker room here. This is special. And we are talking sports, so Women's World Cup is going on. So let's shout out the women. It's an amazing World Cup. Yep, shout for them. And Spain made it to the championship, which is an Adidas club. So I want to make sure we give the home team a shout out there as well. And you probably saw someone named Messi joined MLS recently, which is another one of our properties. So yeah, my name is Daniel Cherry. I go by DC, and I'm a general manager for what we call Adidas Originals Basketball and Partnerships, specifically focused on now a new initiative that we have called OGLA, Originals LA, which, to your point, we are a German brand, but when you think about culture, being immersed in culture, we brought a lot of our brightest minds to LA as a creation center in the fashion district, and we're building a lot of our footwear, apparel, and kind of cultural collaborations out of LA. We had about 300 people in office. We have an amazing star on our team here, Simone Smith. So say hi, Simone. Simone's amazing. So definitely chat to
Hello, Simone.
Indeed. So she's heading up our footwear opportunity for Originals LA. But to your point, when it comes to culture, I'll give you one kind of point of view, which guides me through what I do and the tough times that we've had within culture, because to your point, you don't control culture. You do not surf culture either, which many brands do. So the first thing I'd say is just because you can doesn't mean you should. And that when you engage in culture, you engage in influencers, and you engage in talent, they should be the wind, not the concrete. Meaning the wind is an accelerant, the concrete is the foundation of your brand. So if you're relying on influencers and talent, people outside of your company that do not share your email address to drive the foundation of your business and the growth in your business, then you're doing it backwards. That's the tail wagging the dog. And that's something that we realized. And to your point, the Originals LA initiative and what we're doing with Originals, which launched in 97 initially as a heritage, right, part of the brand, lifestyle part of the brand, is that we have to focus on the culture internally first, because culture is really just a bunch of beliefs, attitudes, right, traditions in a community. With a shared understanding what those right codes are. And if we don't have those internally, we can't have someone outside the company dictate what those are. If we do that, then we're lost. So we're focused really on our internal culture. And that to me will, I think, be celebrated externally, which is why a lot of people are wearing Samba. That's about our internal culture. It's about who we are and what we stand for. And that's why it's trending the way it's trending for him as well. And happy 50th anniversary to hip hop, because we were there as well with this superstar. There you go. Exactly. We got to give more love to hip hop. It's the greatest cultural movement in the 20th century, if not ever, for sure. So for me, I just focused on thinking about my own personal culture and how I show up every day, which I think is important when you sit in seats like this. So for me, my personal kind of mission is to be a force for good, which my team knows. I share that with them. And my professional kind of mission is to chase challenges and create positive change in culture. And so when we were going through the tough times we went through last year with a former partner, I had to resurrect that professional purpose. That's why I'm here. I'm in the seat because I wanted this challenge. Now, what are we going to do about it? And so rose to the occasion, did the right thing by, I believe, our values and culture. We're going to donate about $100 million to nonprofit initiatives that are anti-hate, anti-racism, right? We're donating to the Anti-Defamation League. We're donating to the George Floyd Foundation and other initiatives, leveraging the revenues and proceeds we've made from selling the inventory we have, which was the Yeezy stock, which is not an easy thing to do for a company who has never really stepped their foot into causal initiatives before, like some of our other competitors. But again, you double down on who you are and what you stand for. And I think it's so easy to do the right thing. Harder commercially because you're dealing with shareholders, but it should be easy to know what the right thing is. It might be hard to execute, but you should definitely know pretty clearly what is right and what is wrong in your company. I think we do that. And I'm willing to wish my job to do the right thing, which is also something that I think most people aren't willing to do. I'm willing to stand on it because this is not who I am. It's just what I do.
Yeah. Just briefly, tell us a little bit more about the space. You mentioned that you have a space downtown. Can you describe this so everybody gets kind of a picture in their mind? And we're not setting up the next Brand Innovators event there, but you never know. It could happen. But just a shameless plug.
There may be something happening end of the year. We'll see. But yes, we have essentially 100,000 square foot atelier. For those who are in fashion, it's essentially a workshop, a space where you can make product, as well as an office. So we have about 300 staff there. And in the fashion industry, we have, if you don't know much about this industry, yes, we have marketing, brand comms, that's part of it, but we have product management, those who actually shepherd the creation process. We have designers, we have developers, we have engineers, we have PhDs and, generative computational design, and we have seamstresses, pattern makers, you name it. So that's all in our office in downtown LA in the fashion district. And so our job is to engage the community to make sure that we can make the best product for our consumer and also be on the cutting edge. And to be on the cutting edge to me means being part of culture, not just marketing culture. And so we want to hire, support, collaborate with those in culture making products. For our little group in the office, we talk about three things, the 3 C's, and Simone knows this, I say it all the time, which is it's around confidence, which is based on values, not how cool you are. It's based on community. And when you think about athleisure wear or the products we make, it's about comfort. So confidence, community, comfort, and everything we do is focused on those 3 things. And if we don't have the community involved, they're going to miss the mark because we do try to kind of pass the baton to them and hope they, cross the finish line. That's not, to me, how you engage culture. You engage culture from the very beginning because you're lucky enough that they've adopted you. So how do you actually accelerate that passion and share it? And the last thing I'd say that she also knows that I have written on my board. This is something I'd ask you all to think about when you think about culture. All culture is, when we say it, is basically popular movements that you can identify with something that you can buy. That's the reality, is we're marketers, right? There's something connected to that movement that you can buy. And for me, it's very simple. Everything cool in the history of the world started from someplace with someone and some friends. That's simple. Hip hop, you can name those things. You can name that place. You can name that person. You can name those friends. cognac, champagne. Those are regions, those are places, skate culture. So for me, the question is, do you have a sense of place in your brand? Are you leveraging, where we use the term provenance, but do you have a sense of place? Do you have a home? Do you have a community? Do you have friends? And can you identify that founder spirit? If you lose those three things, I don't think you can actually engage culture credibly.
So we'll see some of that coming out of Originals downtown, out of the space down there for sure.
There will be product coming out, and yeah, we'll hopefully invite many of you. We're working with Andrea and Mark and team to maybe have a little visit for sure, a little sneak peek.
All right, thank you, DC, very much. Aloha, Holger. King's Hawaiian, if you don't know Holger already. And we are seeing you show up also with the Dodgers, but NASCAR and many other franchises across the country. I think before you go into why you chose those or what you're doing, perhaps you could tell us a little bit about King's Hawaiian and what led you to, maybe it's your own internal culture, I think in this particular case, that does influence even your partnerships, if I'm not mistaken. But maybe you could tell us a little bit about how that affects, what you do with your sports partnerships, and then maybe give us an example of what you're actually doing.
Absolutely. So maybe I'll start here. It's interesting for me, just sitting next to you too, I spent my last 8 years at Adidas, just so making that move actually from the sport industry to the food industry now. So a lot of people have been asking me why did you make the move? And, so maybe that relates also to King's Hawaiian and why I believe the brand and the culture actually that King's Hawaiian, the internal culture that King's Hawaiian represents is really unique and it's really powerful. It is a family-owned company, has been doing really well for probably the last 10 to 15 years on a steady growth. But it's a company that when you think of the brand, everybody somehow has some sort of a story to tell about the brand. It's crazy for me, coming from, having spent in Germany the last 8 years, coming over and, we have internal swag that says King's Hawaiian. Being literally at any airport, people tap on your shoulders, oh my God, I want to share your story, and I have this experience, and it's just it's very you feel okay, you are definitely in the right spot in the right place here. The company itself, it's like I said, it's family owned. We have a very strong Hawaii, connection. They came from Hawaii, came from the Big Island, and made it to Oahu, to Honolulu, and then all the way to the mainland. Now we're starting going international. When you look at, and this is something that also was for me pretty critical, to be honest, from a brand health perspective. When you think of NPS, Net Promoter Scores, and so forth, it is so high that you won't believe, where sometimes we compare this to other brands and we are at a certain size and they are maybe 25 times bigger. You're okay, there must be so much more potential, so much more, unlocking potential. But what I really would also like to refer to is Bree and Richard, what you talked about, I probably call the brand purpose. Is a really deeper meaning. That to me, even from an Adidas perspective, you guys have through sports, you have the power to change lives, right? It's really impacting, really adding value, creating something basically for the better in people's lives. And that's what we have. When we talk about, we talk internally quite a bit about moments, moments that matter, moments, of joy, moments of happiness. How can we influence this? Obviously, we're coming from a food angle, right? Food is a social lubricant. So we're trying to connect, and this is also the connection and why we have some very successful partnerships right now in the sports world. We have a long-term partnership with LAFC. We have with the Dodgers, Yankees, Boston Red Sox. We have with in Atlanta with United, the Falcons, and we have NASCAR. So we are really amping up, and this is a little bit from the first panel, the experience, right? Really creating something through our food that is more joyful, and that with these sportive events going on, it makes it more memorable. It makes it more interesting, and that's where we come in. Really how do we amp up? How do we make this more premium? How do we play a bigger role? So we are thinking of the brand a little bit more as an activator in the future. So we're not just there, but how do we actually create those occasions, around the country and potentially even like international. Like, what kind of a role do we play in sports and with food? So that's a little bit like, just why I also feel super strong about this company, about the brand. The company itself does really like live Aloha spirit. We want to share this a little bit more with the outside world, to be honest, because everybody needs a taste of paradise, right? Like that's in today's world, like something that probably everybody can nod and say like, okay, there's a lot of like maybe not so good stuff going on. How do you bring that joy, that happiness into the world, and what's our role in this?
Well, tell us a little bit more about that aloha spirit and how that, let's say, affect your relationship with NASCAR. I think that was one scenario.
Yeah, and you could NASCAR, LAFC, we could, like all the partners that we're currently working with, again, like coming maybe like from a world where, you were the big partner and you not demanded, but you were like, pretty strong about like, what needs to happen. And, there was a financial discussion and so forth. Now coming with this attitude and this culture of, let's do this together, like in a better, bigger way where we create win-wins, like, around. And this is like, when I see this, like in maybe like just one example with NASCAR, and NASCAR is maybe like also a very special case, but just the fact like we are partnering up with the RFK, the Roush team over there, the fact that this team is going so beyond like what they were supposed to do, contractual, like literally like when the driver and the whole team is like spending the evening before the race with us, talking about like race strategy and all that. And of course, like, going to our plants in Atlanta and social media, and we're capturing that. We can like, create stories together. We help each other. So like, how do we amplify each other's, message all the way, like, to when Brad, Brad, our driver is like getting into the car the second before the race starts, is so connected. We are so, really like appreciating each other. And this is beyond the traditional partnership. So any partnerships that we do, we kind of expect that, but we also, take us, into the, we have to like deliver that on our end as well, right? Like we have to like bring this in and then like create those, the 1 + 1 equals 3 or sometimes maybe 5, like really getting to that point. And this is what we bring. This is like where the culture of the company really has an impact. And, it's like I said, like we are now like, on our platform, and Jenna from my team is like, really leading this, almost like I would say this movement that's currently going on with 25 million, posts and people like being engaged and want to be part of our platform. It's crazy. It's like, this brand is so beloved, and it's funny to hear like there's not one single person ever saying something negative about the brand, which to me was unheard of until this point.
I know it's lunchtime. I was just daydreaming while he was talking about having a Dodger dog on a King's Hawaiian bun, with some good toppings. But I know we're getting here on time. We got to move on. Thank you very much. Amondo, head of Foot Locker, also known as Foot for short. And let's kind of continue this train of thought in terms of culture and business relationships. Foot Locker is, you handle all of the partnerships from obviously Adidas and Puma and Nike and New Balance and others. Can you just, talk to us a little bit about what you're doing right now, and maybe give us a little bit of insight into those different brands and how cultural effect, impact may be impacting some of those, decisions and how you go to market?
Absolutely, happy to. So one of the great things about Foot, obviously, is that we've been along forever, 50 years, and everyone has a story about Foot Locker. And I've been lucky enough to lead brands where everyone has a story. Everyone had a story about Forever 21. Everyone had a story about Gap. But Foot Locker, everyone has a story about, growing up in the store, going there after school. And so really for me is trying to tap into that. And the vendors that we work with, whether it's Nike or Adidas or Puma or Under Armour, they're really trying to do the same thing, is how do we tap back into that love of the brand? And so for me, knowing that everyone has their own D2C business that they want to also make sure is great, we've got to, on our end, kind of come up with ways that's different and kind of bring that love back in a way that maybe an Adidas or a Nike can't do organically on their own, but needs kind of that push. And so I even think about a brand like Under Armour, right? When I came in, everyone was like, why are we focusing on Under Armour? They're not a top 4 vendor, but they have Steph Curry. They have De'Aaron Fox. They are a part of basketball culture. So how do we help Under Armour sort of untap that love that's out there, because you have the athletes that support that? How do we help untap that in a way that's original? But when I think about culture, I really think about, similar to what Daniel was saying, it's not about creating culture. It's really a part of how do we engineer culture. You know, Foot Locker is culture. So for us, we don't want to kind of put ourselves out there in a way that makes us look like we're creating something that we're not. We just want to be a part of the conversation. So I think that's the 100% thing that I'm trying to do, is put us in the conversation, not act like we are the conversation.
No, I get that. I'm getting a signal that we're going to be running a little short on time, so I don't know if we'll be able to open the floor to questions, but I would encourage anybody to ask questions, you know, at lunch or throughout the day. But we do have a lot of rising stars in the audience. I won't ask you to raise your hands, but I know that that's a big part of what we're doing here today, is helping bring people up. And Amondo, I just wanted to ask you if you could share a little bit about your story and kind of what it takes to make it, coming like from a CMO's position. How, what do you have to say to some of the rising stars that are in the audience today?
I think by far having a North Star that's what you want to do. You know, I didn't end up being CMO of Forever 21 or head of Foot Locker just by circumstance. That was my North Star to do that. And so marketing has so many facets that will pull you along the way that you can start to go down several different ways of going about it. But if you know for sure that the CMO role, the chief brand role, the chief revenue role is something that you want, let that be your North Star, and make sure that every organization that you join not necessarily knows that, but make sure that you are taking on responsibilities, making sure that you are putting yourself in a system that will help you achieve that, even if it's not there, but getting the right information, surrounding yourself with the right people, surrounding yourself with the right mentors, immersing yourself in the arena in a way that steers you towards that path. But you have to know that. You have to know that the CMO role is something that you want, and you have to position yourself on this 10, 15, 20-year journey before that happens, of making sure that that's where you're headed to.
On that same vein, I know we're just about out of time, but I couldn't help but ask DC, what is your purpose? What, you know, how would you answer that similar question?
Well, as I said, for me, it's be a force for good. So that's where I'm always at. So if commerciality impacts my values, then I have to make a decision, right? Because every day you show up to work is a choice. So we should actually always remember that. Every day you show up is a choice. So are you choosing to go with or against, and for what reason? So I think that's important. I think the other thing that I'd say is, you know, I always look for an aggressive curiosity in people. That's one of the most important attributes for me, because your experience is based on the opportunities you have. And I didn't have those opportunities, so I didn't actually have that experience. I had to do most of what I did on my own. I fast-tracked my way here because I was 19 and we started a basketball brand called And1. I wouldn't have had that chance with some colleagues earlier on in my life if I didn't try to find it outside of the system. So most people don't have those opportunities, and sadly, they're getting few and farther between for people of color, for women, for others. So I'd say it's important that you, to your point, soak up all of the knowledge that you can, but have that aggressive curiosity and find it wherever you can, not just in your company. I tell my team as well, don't find all of your fulfillment in your job. It's a job. Figure out where else you can find that fulfillment. But I'd say in closing, be a master apprentice. You know, be a crafts person at whatever you do. Try to be the best at it, and don't try to be the first, is what I'd say.
All right. Thank you, DC. Thank you, Holger. Thank you, Amondo. And thank you, Sandra. Everybody give up a hand.